very much for coming along to this workshop. Unless you're looking for the workshop on technology, then you're in the wrong place. So this is definitely the workshop about technology and digital stuff. A few things to ask. One, can I ask that you keep your microphones on mute, please? That way there'll be no feedback. Obviously, that doesn't apply to whoever's presenting, Sarah.
Okay.
Please do use the chat function for any comments and also for any questions for any of the presenters. We've got a number of presenters within this session. So what I'm planning on doing is letting all of the presenters run through their presentation, some of which are live, some of which are pre-recorded. And then at the end, we'll do a Q&A session at the end. So when you think of a question, stick it in the chat and we'll come to those at the end. What I'll do for the questions is a mixture. If there are a number of questions on a similar theme, then it might well be that I can ask them directly to the presenters and we'll get their feedback. But if there are some good questions out there, what I will do is promote whoever has asked that question up to a presenter, and you can actually ask the question live. So if you suddenly find yourself being promoted and asked to ask a question live, then don't feel too shocked, but that's likely to happen. Obviously, there are some takeaways from this this session, and again, you can find all of those in the event bag. So if you haven't discovered that bit of the system yet, go and have a look after the session, and you can pick up copies of presentations, and also you'll be able to watch the presentation back for a number of days afterwards if you want to. And obviously some of the presenters have got booths as well, so once the presentations are finished, then do feel free to go and check out some of those booths, especially if you've got particular questions. And final thing to let you know is that you'll have an opportunity to watch the recordings of the other 5 workshops that are going on simultaneous to this, and you'll get notification of how to do that. But basically, you can log back into the conference area at any time over the next 30 days and look back at what happens in the other workshops. And that is that's my introduction done. So I'm going to hand over straight off to Sarah from Connecting Cambridge, and I'll leave you to introduce yourself, Sarah. Like I say, any questions for her, just put them in the chat. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark, and hello everybody. I'm Sarah Marsh, and I'm the Programme Manager for Connecting Cambridgeshire, and I'm sure many of you will be familiar with our programme. Well, I hope you are. We've been working with Cambs parish councils and communities for the last 8 years on improving the connectivity of the region across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. When we first started, we had over 100 local broadband champions from parishes, and I did see that there are still some of them around and still some of them here today, which is nice to see. So I'm delighted to be here to talk a little bit about the programme, and more importantly for you, about how we can continue to look at improving the region's connectivity and what you can do to help connectivity in your local areas. So I've got to remember I'm advancing my own slides here. Here we go. No. So Mark, my slide hasn't moved on my screen. Is that... Sorry, everyone.
No, it moved on my screen.
Did it?
Not sure. Okay. So that's fine. Yes, I'll do a thumbs up.
Thank you. I know this is a really busy slide, but and you don't have to read it in detail, but it really describes the breadth of the Connecting Cambridgeshire Digital Connectivity Programme. When we started the programme, we were looking at superfast broadband at a time when only around 60% of households had access to superfast broadband. But since then, the programme has expanded enormously into all aspects of connectivity, so including, as you can see here, public access Wi-Fi, mobile, full fibre and smart. Digital connectivity, especially now during COVID-19 pandemic, has been a lifeline for many, if not all of us, enabling us to stay connected with friends and family and community, as well as to carry on working. And this increased importance of digital connectivity and the reliance on it, together with the government's recent quite ambitious target of 100% full fibre by 2025, means there's quite a sharp focus on our digital connectivity programme. We're led by the County Council and we're supported by district councils with additional funding from Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority. And our work is underpinned by our enabling digital delivery service. And this is a service that's really working with telecoms operators, providers, councils and the government to remove any barriers to delivering better connectivity and attract more commercial investment. We think we are a leading digital county and we know we're ahead of many others when it comes to connectivity, but there's always much more to do. So just really quickly giving you an idea of the progress we've been making. So superfast broadband, over 98% of homes and businesses across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough full fibre, or what's called gigabit capable technology. And this is future-proofing people's connectivity as we go forward. And we're working with both commercial providers and the government to try and reach those rural areas. And I think probably you're all very keenly aware that it's very easy for infrastructure suppliers to connect urban areas where there's dense numbers of houses. Much harder, much more challenging in some of our more rural areas. And we are working hard to ensure that we reach those rural areas. There's been commercial rollout recently of full fibre in Ely by Openreach, and they've just announced St Neots as one of their fibre first cities, which is really good, or fibre first locations, not a city, which is really good news. And I think that is kind of the fruit of our enabling digital delivery service, which is working really hard to make Cambridgeshire and Peterborough a really attractive area for commercial investment. You may be familiar with County Broadband. They have plans to roll out to about 24 villages across Cambridgeshire. They're definitely rolling out to Newton, Triplow and Falmere, and they're looking at a further 21 villages in the county. They have a slightly different model to some suppliers. They require some sign up, and I know that many of you will have had some engagement from them already. Virgin Media are upgrading their footprint. They've got coverage in a lot of our market towns, and they are upgrading their network to make it gigabit capable. So that speeds up to 1 gig, 1,000 megs. So really good, fast connectivity. So we had a target of full fibre of 30% by 2022, but we are already in a county now at over 25%. So we are looking at much more challenging targets going forwards. Mobile coverage, we know mobile coverage is patchy across the county, particularly in rural areas. We conducted our own drive testing and walk testing surveys to see if our data matches the data that's held by Ofcom. Sometimes it did, and in some areas it was slightly different. So we've been having a lot of discussions with mobile operators and the government to see what can be done to improve coverage. We've had some small wins with the mobile operators where they've managed to reconfigure their to improve coverage, or even actually put new masts up to improve coverage, which is really good news. We're also waiting for the government to give us some further information on how Cambridgeshire and Peterborough are going to benefit from the shared rural network funding, which is where network operators are going to be working together to share infrastructure, which will improve coverage across the country. So, watch this space, really. Public access Wi-Fi. We're very well aware that people who can't always get access to good connectivity, whether that be because connectivity isn't available or whether it be that they can't afford it, do find free Wi-Fi services really, really useful. And we've been rolling out free CAM Wi-Fi. It's a secure, free Wi-Fi network to all of our public buildings, all of our libraries, but now also extending this to village halls. We worked with CAMSACRE to survey all the village halls to see who hadn't got connectivity, who was interested in connectivity. The first 36 village halls live with CAM Wi-Fi, which is great news, but we are looking to get additional funding. We only had a small amount of funding, and we're looking to get additional funding to connect a further 34 who were interested in getting connectivity, but not able to. And finally, the SMART programme. So we had a Smart Cambridge programme. We're extending this to smart places, really, which is looking at some of the technical solutions, digital solutions for improving conditions, life conditions in market towns, using smart technologies and data for low-range networks, for sensors, to manage things like parking, traffic, air quality. And finally, we've also added, because of the pandemic, we've added a Keeping Everyone Connected strand to the programme, which I'll just cover off later. So have I moved? Yes, I have moved on. So, so one of the things that the government has made available is some funding for groups of people in rural areas to get vouchers to improve their connectivity. So they started the scheme, the Rural Gigabit Voucher. Well, they started it as the Gigabit Voucher scheme to cover rural and urban. And I think really the recognition that the rural areas are probably suffering the most with poor connectivity, they're now targeting those rural areas. And there are vouchers available for residential homes and businesses to club together and then go to a supplier and ask to be connected. We are topping these vouchers up for those who have the poorest speeds. So the vouchers are available for anybody who can't get more than 100 megabits per second. So typically, if you're not on full fibre or Virgin Media, you probably qualify for one of these vouchers. And the idea is that people work together, or even whole communities work together to pool their vouchers, go and talk to suppliers, find out how much it will be to connect to full fibre services and use the vouchers. So we're topping those up, as you can see on the slide, by £1,500. So those premises who can't access any more than 30 meg will get a higher value voucher. So that's something that is very useful. The Connecting Cambridgeshire programme is still rolling out superfast broadband or fibre broadband via Openreach. We're in the last year of our programme, and in addition to that and commercial rollout, people can actually help themselves as well. And the next slide is just a little bit of information. I think I've moved on. Yes, I have. About a whole community And this is really, really lovely example of a whole community coming together to pull their vouchers. They actually approached Openreach, Openreach's community fibre partnership. There are lots of different suppliers willing to talk to communities about connecting, but they chose to go with Openreach. And as our broadband champions know, it's no small ask to coordinate your community and get people to work together. But in this case, they did get them to work together, and they've had enough people say, yes, I will take a new fibre broadband service to be able to get Openreach to go and deliver FTTP, fibre to the premise, to the whole village. Nobody has to pay anything. All they have to do is say that they will take a new fibre service. So that's a really good news story. Okay, so next slide is just a brief overview of our Keeping Everyone Connected work stream. And this is more about working with lots of other organisations to make sure that people have the information they need to help get online and improve their digital skills. I think this session is not just about, digital connectivity and technologies, but it's about digital inclusion. It's about access to those as well, and making sure people have got the skills to use them. So we're working with Cambridgeshire Schools and Libraries as part of Online Week to help people get online and improve their digital skills. Our Enabling Digital Delivery Service is working with social housing providers, for example, and fibre network providers to make sure that those social housing tenants don't miss out on good connectivity. And we're also making a bid, we're quite confident about this, for EU funding. Amazingly, there is still some EU funding left as we slide out of the European Union. The good news is we can use that to match some combined authority funding for a business support scheme to help small and medium enterprises use digital connectivity to be more resilient and even grow and recover from the pandemic. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour through our programme. I'm just moving on, I think I'm moving on to the next slide. So really, I suppose I'd like to leave you with some thoughts about what next and how you can help us and your community. So what next really is the government's very ambitious full fibre targets, and we are working with the government at the moment to see how that can be achieved in our area. But you can help yourselves. There's a great example really of us putting Wi-Fi into village halls, but then village halls are able to do a lot more to help their own community and also to work to help residents in their areas take advantage of digital connectivity. But by promoting the voucher scheme in your area or letting us know if you are aware of any areas that might benefit from those vouchers, we're more than happy to help you with a rural gigabit voucher scheme. And contacting us with any connectivity issues. So we are at the stage now where we've done the big coverage job, but there are lots of, we know there are lots of little gaps and lots of people who still have connectivity issues. We're working hard to fix those, but we don't know what we don't know, and you know what we don't know. So that's really helpful when you contact us and let us know of connectivity issues. So contact us via the Connecting Cambridgeshire website. My colleague Jo is in our booth. She's answering any questions. I've just seen, I'll come on to that. I'm not allowed to answer questions now. I've just seen a question. I'll hold myself in check until the end of the session. But yes, really, it's about contacting the Connecting Cambridgeshire team and talking to us. And I'd encourage anybody with connectivity issues to do that because we're always happy to help. I think that's me done. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And thank you very much for keeping yourself in check with questions as well. There are a few for you that came up, and hopefully we'll have time for all of those at the end. I'm just going to promote our second speaker, who is Rebecca from City Fibre. So hopefully, Rebecca, you will be promoted to a presenter, and you'll be able to join us.
Hello.
Hi, hello, welcome.
You can hear me, brilliant. Hi, Mark. Hello, everybody. Really great to be here. Shall I kick off, Mark, or did you?
Yeah, absolutely. Introduce yourself, and you can move the slides by the previous and next buttons at the bottom of your screen. But if you're in the same situation as Sarah and you can't see them move, then I'll give you a thumbs up.
Great, thank you. So yeah, hello everybody. My name's Rebecca Stevens. I'm City Manager for City Fibre, and City Fibre is one of those commercial companies that Sarah referred to earlier. We're an infrastructure company which is constructing full fibre networks. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about City Fibre, a bit about the importance of full fibre and gigabit connectivity and the benefits, and how the UK trails far behind other countries and what we need to do about it. So as Sarah said, as a society and a country, we're more reliant on digital technology than ever. And that's been brought home to us, I think, during this period of coronavirus, working from home, homeschooling, GP video appointments, what we're doing now on an online conference, whereas we would all have been together perhaps previously, just simply keeping in touch. And also as we look ahead to those sort of buzzwords like AI, 5G, IoT, they're all putting unprecedented demands on the legacy network that underpins the UK up until now. And I've been working for City Fibre for 2 years now, and a lot of the time I talk to people about fibre and they say, we've already got fibre. And this is, of course, was what Sarah was talking about with Superfast. And that's true, sort of already got fibre, but it's part fibre. So, the incumbent has been upgrading from copper to fibre to the cabinet, but of course it still goes down that very slow copper cable to get to your home. And Superfast being somewhere in excess of 24 meg, but full fibre means that you can get up to 1,000 meg or a gigabit. And I think some of this understanding is what really confuses a lot of people. And I don't think the internet service providers particularly make it easy with their packages, which are called all sorts of different things. City Fibre doesn't sell direct to customers. It's the whole, we build the tracks, but we don't run the trains analogy. So I'd urge you to look at the packages and the upload and download speeds, because both of those are important. And why are they important? It's bandwidth, of course. I, unfortunately, don't have full fibre to my house, although it's on the way. But I've got 2 children. Between us, we've got 4 mobile phones, 4 laptops or similar devices. We've got a smart TV, a PlayStation, an Alexa. I think I'm up to about 13 by now. And the broadband at my house is around 60 meg. And I know that it can probably support about 6 or 7 of those devices before it just falls over and has a bit of a meltdown and goes and has a cup of tea. And I have to wait for it to recover. And the average house has 10.3 internet enabled devices. So count up yourself at home how many you've got. If you've got 3 kids, that's probably coming up to 15 devices. But the perceived wisdom is that by 2030, which is it's not that far off really, we will have 15 smart enabled devices each. And so once you start thinking about trying to use 15, in my home, that would equate to 60 devices. And I know that I would certainly need far superior connectivity than I've got at the moment. The slide there talks a bit about what happens in an internet minute. I mean, this is worldwide, but it's quite shocking, I think. There's been more data created in the past 2 years than in the entire history of the human race. And that statistic is already 5 years old. So I've no idea where we've got to now. Around the same time, Google announced that it only indexed 0.004% of all data on the internet. So it's all this data that's flying about that requires us to have this good connectivity. There are now 4.5 billion active internet users worldwide, 1.9 billion websites, 5 million blog posts every day. And I wouldn't like to guess how many images, but you might like to know that 80% of them are of naked women, apparently. If you were all in the room, I would hope I'd get a giggle at that point, but that's the difficulty of presenting on video. Radio took 38 years to reach its first 50 million users. TV took 13. Anyone want to take a guess about how long the internet took? It was just 4. So you can see why we're needing this. City Fibre is a relative new kid on the block when it comes to infrastructure and full fibre networks. It was only born in 2020, and that slide sets out what we intended to do and still intend to do, and along the way shake up the industry by delivering a full fibre revolution. Choice, quality and more speed for less, in the hope that the other providers would need to step up. And this graph should show you why this is required. Now, this is a couple of years old, but actually the new graph looks pretty much the same. And as I said, 2 years ago when I started this job, only 3% of the UK had full fibre. And that puts us as a country behind not just countries like the USA or China, but behind Portugal, Turkey, Mexico, Lithuania. I mean, things have improved over the last 2 years dramatically, and I think we're now tracking at 14%, but it still puts us way, way down the list when you consider that Spain, for example, has in excess of 80%, and that's not even at the top of the list. So this is against a context, as I've already said, of rising consumption. I've talked a bit about what you might have in your home, and of course this was predicted when we knew nothing about COVID and how much we'd be doing from home. But it still predicts huge consumptions. And how many devices do you have that you didn't have 2 years ago? You might have had an Alexa or something similar then. There's the doorbells now that you can see people who are ringing on your ringing on your door from far away. You can turn your heating on at home or the lights on from elsewhere. Many people have CCTV. There are even devices where you can look in your fridge when you're at the shops to find out what you want. And of course, there's the explosion on video demand and video on demand. And that's just a completely different way of consuming television. And certainly the younger generation, I don't think, watches terrestrial TV at all these days. They just watch it on their devices on demand whenever they want. So hopefully I've painted a picture of why full fibre and this gigabit speed connectivity is necessary. But it's not just about catching up to where we should be. It's about looking at the opportunities ahead of us. And this is a little bit about my City Fibre bit, which is, like I said, we're a relatively new organisation. We came to Peterborough in 2014-15 and we put in a full fibre network in Peterborough, the first one for us, and that connected the public services and it opened it up to businesses. And in 2018, we moved on to residents and announced that we would fibre cities and bring gigabit speed broadband within reach of almost every home and business. Not just about little pockets of cities, but entire cities. And in fact, announced just 2 years ago that we would spend 4 billion bringing full fibre to 8 million premises around the UK, which is probably about 30% of the UK. And during just those couple of years, we've now grown to be the third biggest infrastructure platform. But it's not just about upgrading the existing network for us, it's about planning for the future. And we work on what we would call the well-planned city model, which is creating a network capable of catapulting entire cities into the digital age and helping them compete on a global stage. And you can see it layered there, all the different bits. It's not just about one little bit, it's about the whole package. But I've just put a couple of pictures in there because just to remind you that there is some pain to this. We are going up and down the streets of Peterborough and Cambridge, digging them up, and that is an inconvenience. But what we will hope is that you will see that it's a short-term inconvenience for some long-term gain, because this is really future-proofing for the next 50 years. And we're in the middle of delivering. So Peterborough was the second city that City Fibre chose to roll this out in. Cambridge was the 9th city. We started in Peterborough in 2018. We're just over halfway through. And since then, we have announced many, many more cities. And at this point, you're going to stop me and say, you keep talking about cities, but not rural Fenland or Huntingdon. And just to be completely transparent, we're not about to announce that we're going to suddenly come and do the rural areas, but we are beginning to look outside the boundaries of the city and explore the world outside. We're just about to kick off our first national trial of outside the city boundary, and that is in Cambridgeshire, in a couple of the villages outside Peterborough. And we're doing what we call a demand stimulation project, where we just try to find out what the appetite is in those villages, and if there is an appetite and people would like us to come and build, then we're going to do it. And this is part of our exploration, shall we say, into what we might be able to do in the more rural areas or outside major cities. When I say rural, everyone has a slightly different definition, don't they? And looking into vouchers, as Sarah talked about, and talking with the government on the 5 billion outside in project to fibre rural areas. But in honesty, I think what we will do first is look at the areas directly outside where we are building currently. So that's the areas around Peterborough and around Cambridge. So City Fibre won't come to all the villages and towns and rural areas in Cambridgeshire, but what I would urge you to do is take the message that you do need full fibre in all of these areas and to push for it. Our take is that competition will drive down costs to residents, but it's only us as infrastructure providers should only be competing once we've got an existing good full fibre network across the UK. We shouldn't be fighting over the cities when there are big rural gaps. So I've already talked a little bit about what full fibre means at home and what the benefits might be, but it's also about what it means in the community. And this whole smart city phrase, I think, is bandied around a lot. And whether you take examples from around the world, like the public transport apps or the online consultation forums in Reykjavik, the smart bins and water metering in New York, or the autonomous buses in Singapore. Even the Internet of Things project that we've run fairly recently in Peterborough with a social housing landlord that made the environment better for residents. It cut the costs for the company and it reduced its carbon footprint. There are lots of benefits of smart city activity. McKinsey said that smart city tech could reduce fatalities on the roads by 8 to 10%. So that's, I think, just one statistic that shows. But there are also massive economic benefits, and increased productivity from businesses not waiting around while files download and upload is a basic one, but it goes much further than this. And this is a slide, an example slide for Peterborough, showing what our £30 million investment in Peterborough could bring. And some of those are obvious, like the worker flexibility and the home working, the business startups, the potential increase in value of the houses. But some of them will include innovations that we've not even thought of yet. And this is where we get into things which potentially seem a long way off, but actually probably aren't very long off at all, like autonomous vehicles or augmented reality, artificial intelligence. And I think they will be every day before you know it. How many people on this call used Zoom before March? And suddenly we're all on it all of the time, or if not, a similar platform. Digital infrastructure has never been more important, I think, to residents as well to the government. And as Sarah said, the last election promised to make all homes in the UK gigabit capable by 2025. And actually the COVID crisis has just made this target even more important. And, you know, digital infrastructure is a key enabler of economic recovery, which I think is really important in the current situation and in the levelling up agenda. I have got a whole spiel about the environmental benefits, but in the interest of time, I'm going to stop there and save my questions, as Mark said, or save your questions, save my answers until the end. So thank you very much for listening.
Rebecca, thank you very much for that. There are lots of questions for you in the chat, so hopefully we'll get through to all of those when the time comes. I'm now going to promote our next speaker, Saria, up to being a presenter, but just to say, Saria's given us a pre-recorded thing, so once she's been uploaded, we'll start her presentation. So let me do that.
Hi, can everybody hear and see me?
Yes.
Brilliant. Great
Thank
start.
you very much. Right.
Very much.
Let's get you started.
Good afternoon. My name is Saria Walters and I work for Good Things Foundation as the Digital Social Inclusion Outreach Manager. For those who don't know, Good Things Foundation is a social change charity, and we work directly with community organisations and local businesses to deliver digital inclusion. We refer to them as online centres. We're able to support our online centres network in two ways. We have a free online learning platform called Learn My Way, which guides learners to develop their digital skills, taking them to the basics of their functional skills, like how to use a mouse, to navigating the internet, and then understanding how they can access public services such as universal credit and improving and managing their health online. Secondly, we design and deliver digital social change programs in partnership with governmental and bodies and other funders, and this includes local authorities, the NHS, and we've also worked with Google to develop another online platform called Make It Click, which supports learners to develop the digital skills that will support them in terms of their employability opportunities. Device.now is something that you may have heard of through our emergency response to the COVID. We, in partnership with Future.now, called on for local businesses to donate devices and data, which we were able to give to our online centres, who in turn distributed them to people who were most in need. So although digital inclusion is very much on the agenda at the moment, Good Things Foundation have been promoting this for numerous years. Currently, there are 7 million people who don't have internet access, and there's 9 million people who are unable to access the internet without support. Good Things Foundation are calling on the government to fix this divide through the digital catch-up, which is an ask from the government of £130 million to support people to become digitally active over a 4-year period. And we intend to reach 4.5 million people. And there's also the Data Poverty Lab. We want to co-design with numerous partners to understand what is the best way to get data out to people who are most in need. And then thirdly is the digital strategy. We would like digital inclusion to be on the agenda, and this means embedding it into the very fabric of services. So in terms of my work on the Digital Link U programme with Salford City Council, these are some of the key areas that sort of enabled me to make Digital U very much a talking feature and something to continue to be invested in. So the community organisations, it was imperative that I got to know who they were, understand their culture, their identity, the people they support, what was the motivation behind people accessing the digital skills. Was it the holistic wraparound support that these organisations was offering? Was it the relationships? And actually it was a combination of factors. In terms of digital inclusion, it was very important for organisations to see that I was visible, accountable and there on hand to really understand what the barriers enablers were for both the community organisations but also for individuals. Problem solving, essential, knowing how to identify problems and creating solutions and opportunities for resolutions was key. Recognition and promotion. A lot of the online centres work incredibly hard and are very grassroots based, and so often or not they go very much overlooked. So really promoting the positive work that they were doing was critical. In terms of sustainability, funding was just, it's something you can't get away from. Everybody needs funding on a certain level, so finding funding opportunities was important. I was able to do this through accessing the support that's available through Good Things Foundation, but also understanding that opportunities that were coming through the council and community organisations. Also local partnerships and strategic partnerships, getting people to talk, understanding what and how digital inclusion could be developed, and then as well as obtaining devices and resources. So throughout the whole of the programme, I've had to remain solution focused in terms of the community organisations and raising their profile and getting partnerships going. This involved the creation of newsletters, digital cafes, which allowed centres to come together. This now has evolved into a digital group where stakeholders are invited and they provide updates of any funding or any news that's coming out, social social media, using social media such as Facebook and Twitter to advertise the positive work that was going across the city. Capacity building, I trained digital champions, members of the local public, to give back to community organisations by offering digital support. I also provided, alongside my manager, trainer support to Salford City Council workers, who would then be able to train their colleagues to develop ways of talking about digital and encouraging members of the public who access their services to gain digital, as well as brokering relationships with corporate partners. In terms of promoting partnerships, partnerships was done on a local level as well, between community organisations, between the online centres themselves, mobilising peer support, attending network meetings. And also in terms of sustainability, Media City, I don't know if anyone's heard of that, but in terms of Salford, Media City is very much a high-tech, innovative business park, and there's a clear discrepancy between the digital skills that are happening there and some of the surrounding areas of Salford. So I invited the digital chief digital officer to visit some of our online centres, and that resulted in him donating some devices. I just wanted to talk to you about three key best practices that I've seen, or just things that I've really appreciated happening across the network. One has been a way that a centre has worked with schools, devising parent contracts so that parents receive digital support outside of school hours, the use of various apps to manage their business and engage with learners. There's also the Golden Centre, who's devised some pathways to vacancies through agencies such as Blue Arrow, and therefore their learners are well positioned to apply for up and current vacancies, and helps them with their employability. And then there's Choices, CIC. That centre has developed a relationship with a construction company, and those people that access their services are able to apply for a CITB card, and that means that the centre can then be reimbursed by the job centre and support that person's employment pathway. And then in addition to that, they've created a relationship with an organisation called SMART, and learners can receive 5 items of clothing. So last 3 things to do, and just to motivate digital inclusion within your local parishes: definitely promote partnership with the Good Things Foundation, encourage community organisations to join our online centres network, and take a look at Get Online Week, our flagship campaign, where there's free resources and ways to engage the local community. Thank you. That was me timing myself out. Thank you very much. Oh, I don't have. Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
I don't know if there's anything you want to add in real life. Otherwise, we can go on to the next presenter.
Yeah, just happy to take any questions. Maybe I should apologise for the background noise. I had my nephew with me. I didn't realise it was so loud. But apart from that, I'll wait for the questions at the end.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right. Our next speaker is yet another pre-recorded one. It's Tanya from Cambridgeshire Skills.
There. I'm Tanya Meadows. I'm the Head of Service from Cambridgeshire Skills. Firstly, I'd like to thank you so very much for inviting me to present at your conference today. It's a real honour to be able to share some of the really exciting opportunities that Cambridgeshire Skills can offer both yourself and your residents. Cambridgeshire Skills is the Cambridgeshire County Council's adult learning service. And I'm just going to take you through a very small presentation that first of all tells you a little bit about who we are and what we do. Then I'm going to move on to discussing how we're actually supporting social mobility and digital inclusion. And then I'm going to finish off with our contact details. And if you have got any questions for myself or any one of the team, then please do get in contact with the details that are going to be on the final slide. So, Cambridgeshire Skills. As I've said, we are the county's adult learning service, and our sense and purpose really is all about delivering county-wide place-based adult education. Now, at the moment, a large amount of that is through online platforms, but we also do have some face-to-face offer as well. We do work with about 50 other partners, so it's a very, very multi-agency approach, and it's really important due to the geographical spread of Cambridgeshire that we have these place-based venues, because it does cut down the sort of travel time for people to attend our courses. So we are here to promote and to develop people's social and economic well-being, and I think that you'll all agree that that's critically important, and even more so when we are supporting COVID social and economic recovery as well. And we don't do this on our own, so we engage with a range of businesses, partners and other stakeholders to really ensure that what we do has the absolute correct intent in order to generate positive outcomes. And we see that every day in terms of the social and economic outcomes that we undertake. So just moving on to our digital skills offer. So we do operate a range of online courses, and these are beginners courses right the way through to qualification courses. And in actual fact, we've got some fantastic progression routes for those who want to move, say, on to formal Cisco courses that are around cyber and digital security, which is an absolute key skills gap in our union. Digital skills is actually now the third basic skill alongside maths and English. So we've got an absolutely fantastic qualification which supports our residents either learning how to shop online, learning how to cut their household income, learning how to have a chat with their friends and family that may not live in the UK, learning how to interview for jobs online, and so on and so forth. So we've got this fantastic formal and informal learning offer to support digital skills and digital inclusion in the county. That coupled with our laptop and data package loan schemes assists those individuals and their families where they just haven't got access to a device or any means of data at home. So we support our learners that are most disadvantaged by offering them this particular service. The other thing that we do, and I've said earlier that the range of partners that we work with is really extensive, is that we are working with the Good Things Foundation. Currently, we're working on a Connected Families project, which looks at how we can generate devices being donated alongside data to those families who have no access to a device or no access to data. So we have currently, or we're just about to take receipt of 50 devices that we will be distributing to your residents over the next month to 6 weeks. And hopefully, once we've got that proof of concept that this particular project works, we can call off further devices and to support your residents with devices and data that are donated. And those donations generally come from businesses, large businesses, as part of their corporate social responsibility. So what an absolutely fantastic way to support digital inclusion. We are also working on a project with our library colleagues for digital champions. So we are doing a call out for volunteers that would like some volunteering skills and also to improve their digital skills in order to support your residents when they come to carrying out the census next year. Because many of you may or may not be aware that that census is statutory to be completed online in the future. And I think we all recognise that some of our residents wouldn't necessarily have the skills to do that without support. So that is a campaign that we are embarking on during November and December to recruit these digital champions or buddies, provide them with the skills in order to support your residents carry out the digital census. Alongside that, we are responding to community need, whether that be at town or district council level, and also with our range of partners to carry out project work. So this currently includes our work with the DWP. You again may or may not be aware that universal credit claimants have really exploded, in some areas in between increases of 350 to 500%. So we very, very quickly responded to putting some live stream digital courses to support those people very, very quickly get back into work. And what this means is that we were able to and continue to help those people who don't necessarily recognise their transferable skills, don't necessarily recognise what would need to go onto a digital CV, and would certainly not have the skills at the moment to carry out an interview online. So that just to show you a little bit of our marketing material, we have been doing virtual interview skills and job searching in a post-lockdown world since the end of August, and we continue to support your residents in this way in order to give them the tools to be more employable, draw out their transferable skills and a dynamic CV, and help them get into work. So that provides you with an idea of what we're doing to support digital inclusion, what we're doing to support social and economic recovery, and to also support social mobility. And I'd be very, very pleased to hear from any of you or your residents as to how we can support you during these really quite difficult times. So in order to enable you to do that, as I said earlier at the beginning of the presentation, I'm Tanya Meadows, I'm the Head of Service, and you can contact me directly. There's my mobile number on the slide as well. And you can also visit our website that's got bundles of information for you to have a look at your own leisure. And you can find that at www.camsals.co.uk. Once again, thank you very much for inviting me to your conference today, and I really look forward to hearing from you in the future. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, everybody. Tanya is not with us in person, so if you do have any questions for her, please do email her. But our next two presenters are here in person. So Sean and Magnus, I'm going to promote you as it is. Apparently that's the correct terminology. There you go. Hopefully, a pair of you are now promoted. Hello, Magnus.
Hi there. Here's Norway.
Yes, welcome, Norway.
My beard in counting. I'm not Santa Claus, so. But here's another white-bearded gentleman.
Brilliant. I will let the crew with the beards get on with their presentation then. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks a lot, Mark. It's nice to be here. Thank you for the invitation to speak. The question arises, what's a cycling company doing in a digital conference? But really, we are essentially a digital company because it's our software platform that really makes the service accessible and adaptable to our riders' needs and to the community's needs. As a quick background, I'm Sean Moroney. I'm the CEO and founder of Cambridge Electric Transport, and we've been running a bike share scheme in Cambridge since July 2018. We're primarily operating in North Cambridge for the Science Park. We've set up various facilities at the Campus Cycle Hub at Addenbrooks, for example. We work very closely with the hospital in providing bike repair services and micro-mobility for their staff. We also have a bike service center at Science Park. We're now expanding our services to include community e-bike services for villages around Cambridge. And we've just this week launched an e-bike service for Teversham. And we're going to be launching Northstowe e-bike service early next month. We hope to be rolling that community e-bike service out to other villages over the coming year. We've been talking to our share bike colleagues in Norway for the past year about bringing them into the city in order to provide a broader public service. And that's why I've invited Magnus to talk about their plans with us from next year onwards. We plan to introduce a 400 plus e-bike service for the greater Cambridge area. I'm very keen to encourage them to also expand into Peterborough and other towns and cities as well. This is the network that we hope to develop for the greater Cambridge area. This is the network plan with pickups, stations for bikes, and also focusing a lot on the large employment centres. So without any further delay on my side, I'll hand over to Magnus so he can talk about the bigger picture with their partnership with Big Issue and ourselves for the Cambridge and area and beyond. Magnus.
Okay, thank you. Hi there, and thank you for having me here. Magnus Berggren. I'm one of the founders and business development director for ShareBike globally, but also with a special responsibility for developing our businesses in the UK. Now, what you see here in the first slide is actually a bit premature right now. This will actually be launched on November 2nd, where there will be a full campaign nationwide with Lord John Bird, riding on one of these bikes, announcing to UK this new endeavor that we are doing together. And just to take the basis of that, I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about ShareBike. ShareBike is, I usually say, is quite a young company. We're 3 years old, but we have a very long history. We have a history of 20 years of developing these types of schemes. That we are a new company has to do with the development of technology. These types of schemes used to be not very technological. They used to be mechanical schemes, proprietary types of schemes. But now, of course, the technology has developed, and we can do so much more with them. We talk about IoT, we talk about the software systems that we can build business models. But also the technology enables us to do much more than just deliver car-free green mobility to cities. In ShareBike, we have a history of working a lot with different types of social inclusion schemes. And it was kind of very much in the cards when we got in touch with the big issue and the COVID hit, that we felt that this is something that we actually could do. We could use this technology, not, as I said, only as a means of doing good for the green and sustainability, but we also could create social inclusion. That means get people who usually are not involved in these types of schemes being involved, but also create jobs and trainings for people who by different reasons have found themselves outside. I mean, we all know that there is a prediction that there will be a huge number of people that may be homeless as a result of COVID-19. And as Lord Bird has said, he's sort of devoted his life to this. And he foresees that there will be a huge new number, not only the old vendors that they have been working with, but the society now also demands new types of jobs, new types of knowledges for people to get into the business. And big issue is really turning around its business to meet these new demands. And big issue e-bikes will be the first of many steps for that. This is the first endeavor. As I said, from November 2nd, we will launch a nationwide program where we will launch these schemes nationwide within the UK. On top of our list for cities where we want to launch it is Cambridge and Cambridgeshire. And that is, of course, thanks to the cooperation with Sean and his company. But in order to do this, we need the support. We need the support of the public authorities, because, I mean, we could place bikes on the streets like others have done, but without doing it in cooperation with everything else that is happening in the society, it's less of a chance for this to work out really well. And we, as Sean has said, has had the pleasure of talking to a lot of people in Cambridge, and of course Lord Bird himself, he lives in Cambridge. That was actually not a part of us choosing Cambridge as an interesting part. But our ambition is that spring next year we will have this scheme up and running with the full operation, and we also actually have ideas of making Cambridge to the national center where we'll build a training center and so forth for the rest of the country. So I think it was actually interesting to hear about Cambridgeshire skills. It could be interesting to have a chat with these guys on how to set up these things, since they have a lot of experience in that area. I'm not sure I'm going to say so much more than this. This shows just how technology actually can can create so much more. We talk about the technology will take away jobs, but this is the way to show how technology actually can create jobs and get people into the society back from being in trouble. I think that's sort of it from me. I don't know, Sean, if you want to add anything.
That's fine. Let's see if there are any questions.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much. Right, let me see if I can do what I said I was going to do and promote those other speakers back up to being presenters. And then it keeps moving.
Well, at least you have your bearded friends in here.
Absolutely.
You won't say anything about pale male stale male.
Well, hopefully we can. Right, I think that everyone is now
There's Rebecca
being promoted. Brilliant, thank you. That's Rebecca. Hopefully, Saria and Sarah are on their way. Thank you all very much for those presentations. We do have some questions. So I'm going to go straight to those. The first one is from Nushin, and if I can find you, I'm going to ask you if you want to ask the question that you posed about the optimum numbers for households and community fibres to conclude. Let me see if I can find you. I can't find you on my list. There's a question here that says, is there, and I think this is a sort of a connecting Cambridgeshire perhaps, or a city fibre question. Is there an optimum number of households within an area that need to get together before they can start having some of those conversations about getting fibre to the door or improving their broadband connection?
I'm not quite sure whether this is a vouchers question or a city fibre question. Are you, Rebecca?
I thought it was a vouchers question.
Okay. So vouchers question. You're eligible for vouchers any more than 2 premises clubbing together. But I suppose that if you're remote and you're hard to get to, you're going to be relatively expensive. So the more premises you've got, the better chance you have of it being affordable is all I would say. So I don't think there is an optimum number, and it depends from place to place. But I'd certainly say, 5 upwards rather than 1 or 2, although we have had examples of quite small community projects that have been successful. I hope that answers your question.
Brilliant, thank you very much. And got a question from David. So David, I'm just gonna David Bard, I've just opened up. Can you ask your question, please? Let's see if this works.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you, David.
It's a question for Magnus, which is your insight seems very interesting, and I represent Sawston. I was wondering to what extent and how easy it would be for parishes to get involved in the scheme. I noticed although you have your network going out past Sawston, there was no there's no indication of a hub actually within the village.
Yeah, I guess Sean will also want to have a word in on this, but it's fairly simple. The e-bikes, it has to do, of course, with the range and how far you go. But usually on an e-bike, the average traveling is like 5 to 7 kilometers. But the range for a bike is, they usually say technically 70 kilometers, but usually it's like 50 kilometers on, it's sort of the battery range. Our main aim is to sort of target the commuters, because that's where we can make a real change, where we actually can get the reducing of using the cars. And we definitely, together with Sean, has a plan of incorporating as many villages and parishes around the Cambridge. So this is more of a Cambridgeshire plan than the city of Cambridge plan, as we look upon it. We've said that we start with 400 bikes, but that's sort of a minimum requirement. The Cambridgeshire probably easily could handle somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 bikes when we get it up and running, but we need to take it into steps. But if there are strong requirements from different areas to be part of the plan, we can very easily put it into the setup, and it will not, with the new technology, actually add any cost whatsoever.
Right. So, yeah. So, as a parish, we could contact you directly, would we? Or
I'd say the absolutely best way is to talk to Sean immediately, who really knows the surroundings, and then we'll support Sean with whatever he needs.
Okay.
Set things up. Yes.
Thanks, Magnus. I'll hold you to that. David, yeah, it's unfortunate that the South Cambs Zero Carbon Communities Fund, latest round of funding applications has just finished, because there they had a specific e-bike call, which we had been, we'd won the tender to provide that for the coming round. To provide a service that they would subsidize into each of the villages that succeeded in their applications. Unfortunately, there wasn't much time left for the applications, and I think only one village has applied, that is Abington. But, I'm sure we can, sort something out. So, please email me. You could just try info, send it to info@bizbike, BIZBIKE .club, and it'll come to me.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Cheers.
Brilliant. There's also a quick question from Graham to you guys as well about, is it possible to do a trial to see how long it would take to do a journey from a village to Cambridge on an e-bike, just to, so that I guess so that people can get an idea of whether or not it's going to be something that people are interested in.
We'd be happy to lend a bike for a week or so. We could do that. Again, just drop me an email on that same address, and we'll arrange that.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Let's see what else. There was a short discussion on the question of if City Fibre is number 3, who are 1 and 2? Rebecca?
So infrastructure companies, number 1 is BT Openreach, and number 2 is Virgin Media, and number 3 is City Fibre. So I see in the chat somebody had mentioned Vodafone. But Vodafone is actually an ISP, it's an internet service provider. So they're the trains to our tracks, if you like. If you would like a City Fibre service, you can talk to Vodafone and they use the City Fibre fibre.
Brilliant. And there were lots of comments in the chat around how do we start to roll some of the benefits of City Fibre, but also some of the stuff that you were talking about, Sarah, out into the villages? I think there is a tendency to concentrate on the urban areas where there are concentrations of people in a smaller area, but obviously there's a real interest within this audience for how do we get some of this out into the real world that is not within a city. So like where I am.
Yes, so the Connecting Cambridgeshire programme, the superfast broadband contract that Openreach won, the last contract to roll out superfast broadband, actually it's full fibre now, we are only allowed to spend money on premises that are under 30, can't get any more than 30 megabits per second. So that in a way does drive you into those rural areas as much as you can. But I think one of the things I mentioned was that, if you were an infrastructure provider and you've got 5 premises that are very near your current footprint just outside, an urban conurbation, or you've got 5 scattered around a drove, in East Cambridgeshire, which one are you going to choose first? Which one's going to be cheapest for you to do? And, I think we all know it's going to be the ones nearer the urban areas. And that's one of the reasons that we've added the top up to vouchers to try and help those areas with the poorest connectivity. There isn't, it's probably worth saying, it's not going to help if you are sitting there saying, I haven't got very good connectivity, but it's probably worth saying that there isn't a village in Cambridgeshire that hasn't in some way had some kind of broadband upgrade over the years. No area has been left out, but what you will find is increasingly there will be people, 2 miles outside the village, for example, who are, as Rebecca mentioned, fibre to the cabinet has its limitations, and one of those limitations is distance. And, if we connected you years and years ago with fibre to the cabinet, but you're a long way from that cabinet, then you are not necessarily going to be getting the best speeds. But, we are quite passionate about achieving as much really good, fast connectivity for people as we possibly can. Obviously, we are constrained by lack of funds, but we're doing what we can and working with people like City Fibre and GigaClear and anybody really, any supplier who is interested in our area, we're really happy to work with, because we don't mind who provides the coverage. We're just very happy to see as much coverage as we possibly can through any means. Well, maybe not any means, but you know what I mean.
Brilliant. Thank you. There's a question from Arga. I'm going to ask you if you can unmute yourself and ask that one about, it's not just all about broadband. Hi, Arga. Can you ask your question? No, we can't hear you at the moment, so I'll do it for you. And the question was around not necessarily broadband, but again, possibly for you, Sarah, it's around mobile connection and the fact that even within Cambridge City, it's patchy. And certainly, Arga was talking about it being patchy in Newnham, but that's also the case for lots of other areas. Is there anything that parish councils could be doing to help improve that? I know I live in Histon, and there are bits of even Histon that don't have coverage.
I've seen Arga's question, and it looks like it's more about broadband, but I'm happy to do both.
Oh, right, is it? No, it's second. Yeah, further down, it mentions mobile data. So.
Okay. So yes, inevitably there are patchy areas of mobile coverage. One of the things that we can't do is what's called intervene in the market. So whereas we're intervening in the broadband market because there has been considered to be market failure, i.e. nobody delivering to a particular area, the same is not true of mobile across Cambridgeshire. There are very, very few what you might call complete not spots, but there are a few poor spots. And by poor spots, you know, if you think there are 4 mobile providers, a poor spot might be where 1 or 2 have coverage, but the others don't. And if your provider is one of the 1 or 2, you're happy. If your provider is one of the other 2, you're probably less happy and you experience, you know, poor mobile coverage. So we can't actually spend any money in that arena, which is one of the reasons what we're trying to do is sort of influence as much as we can and work with mobile providers. And actually, it's been really useful, people telling us where they have problems, because we're able to discuss that with the mobile operators. But, you know, if I'm being truthful, the mobile operators have their own businesses to run, and, you know, they respond to sort of their own commercial programs, and it isn't easy to get them to improve coverage in some areas, although we are working quite well with them and they are talking to us about it. So we're doing what we can, but I think you'll find it's a poor spot rather than a not spot. So it just depends what network you're on and also what handset you're using as well. That trouble with mobile coverage, it varies absolutely massively between handsets and network providers. Sometimes it's actually quite hard to track down what the source of the problem is. I hope that helps.
Brilliant. I've got a quick question for you, Saria. Is there, one of the questions that was asked of Tanya, who's not here, was how's she going to work out how she's going to give away her 50 devices that I think she's had from the Good Things Foundation. Now, I happen to know that she's already doubly oversubscribed for those. So those ones are already identified. But if a parish council were to identify individuals within their locality, is there any way that they can get devices to give out to people?
Well, just to answer Tanya's question, one of the things that we asked from online centres who were donated devices in terms of identifying those that were most vulnerable was to set a criteria where the person had been socially isolated, they themselves didn't have any data, no internet connection, and they had low level of internet skills. And that kind of helped to vet who was the most excluded or just was the most in need, really. And sorry, your second question, was that part of your second question?
Just whether or not anything that parish councils could do, can they apply, or does it have to be through one of those online centres?
Yeah, so the Device Stop Now scheme was part of our emergency response. So it's actually come to an end now and evolved into the Everybody Connected, which someone touched on within their presentation earlier on, and where we're focusing on supporting families and getting the mobile data out to vulnerable individuals and families. But it's always a good idea to have a look at Good Things Foundation's website and see what funding is available. We also have our own funding, but there's also external funding as well. Lots of resources. Sorry, just seeing if that was a question for me. Yeah, lots of resources to be had. But for me, from my experience, working in Salford, was to really just get people together and have those open, honest conversations and being able to do some sort of audit, because it's never known the sort of, like we've been talking about, connectivity, how you know, how bad or how good connectivity is in some of our communities, and what the level of skill is amongst, you know, some of the local residents, as well as the capacity of the organisations that are supporting these people as well. You know, they really do vary. I work with a lot of grassroots organisations who needed that sort of capacity building support, but then you've got established organisations like libraries and housing associations that have the infrastructure and are able to provide a higher level of support. But if you get people together and organisations together, you can identify gaps and establish partnerships. So there's that more of a holistic wraparound support for the local residents.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, there's just one more question from Steve around whether or not any of the panel have any experience with technology-enabled care, sort of detectors and sensors and that sort of thing, as that formed a part of the Peterborough City Council's Think Community strategy. So I don't know if any of you have any. Actually,
Mark, Magnus here. This is good to have a Scandinavian here on board. In both Sweden and Norway, this has actually been developed quite far. What they do is they combine the smart housing development with the sort of elderly and sick care. One example is a new part or a refurbished part of the city of Oslo, where they sort of built to completely new buildings, new flats that is based on this new technology and for people, elderly people to live. So there is a lot of research and a lot of things that happen here in Scandinavia. So, and I actually worked for a couple of those large companies who's done this. So if Steve wants, he can just contact me and I can point him into the right direction on what has done and what has happened here in Scandinavia.
Brilliant. Thank you, Magnus. If you can put your email into the chat, that would be great. If you're happy with that.
Could I just add something, Mark?
Yep.
Is that okay? Because I know our adult social care teams are looking at technology-enabled care, and they are running some pilots and looking at systems to, use detectors, fall detectors, and room detectors in people's homes to cut down care costs and to sort of intervene early when there are any problems. So I do know I haven't got much involvement with that. I have talked to them about connectivity across the region, but I know they're definitely looking at it.
Brilliant. And just finally on that, Steve, as well, I've been running a Get Online digital conference all week on a different platform, but we've been talking to the Raspberry Pi Foundation about some of the work that they've done and about how we can start to use Raspberry Pis and the flexibility that they bring in this area. So, yeah. Again, happy to talk about that as well, Steve.
Yes.
Right. In that case, everyone, it is now 3:34. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you to all of our presenters, and
Michael. Okay.
I'm sure someone will tell you where you're going to next. But thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Sorry. I'm back. I'm sorry, I had to skip.
No, that's not a problem, Sean. Thank you. But thank you very much for coming.
Oh, okay. Thanks for the invite, and yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. My contact details are at the back of my slide. I didn't for some reason I've bypassed that. But yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch anytime. But thanks a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And I don't think anyone noticed the fact that I poured a pint of water down myself halfway through that.
I'll go for that now.
At least with only water.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Brilliant.
Thanks.
Cheers. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
I'm not sure if others are here. I paused it or stopped it, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to stop the recording yet, Kieran. I can't hear you. No.
No?
Yes, I can now.
All right. You just keep pressing buttons and eventually you get through.
Absolutely.
I think we can stop it now.
Okay, let's stop that recording.